This is a response to the video opening up, uploaded by Repzilla, but I will only go into the sections about me and my content, meaning the interview with Mabe and that section. I have posted on both YouTube and Twitter that the interview has been privatized per her request. I've done this previously with other interviews when asked to. Throughout this video and in the future, I'm not going to act like the interview didn't happen. Also, if anything I say in this video is confusing or doesn't make sense, feel free to ask me questions in the comments section. This video does also generally take into consideration that you've probably seen the video that I am referring to. Repzilla titled the first part Internet Stalker, which is on its own a bit odd, given he seemed to paint it as a real life thing.
And it got so severe that I actually had to talk to the authorities about it.
And then in the opening up video, he said the following.
Said they started sending me screenshots of me outside my house while live streaming.
Which is not what it says. It says it got real when they started sending me pictures of me live streaming outside my house, which to me meant that they were outside of his house. He was live streaming and they took photos of him, like literally, like with a camera, like they were outside his house. That was my interpretation of it. Although, to be fair, he did file police reports, which he shows in the video, so he felt like he was in real life danger. Although there is nothing that says that it was to do with the same thing, although the dates do match up. There's a few private videos about this stuff, which is a bit strange. Prior to my removal of the interview, every video on Rep I made was public, except for A Lot Can Happen in a Day, which was removed for community guidelines, and a joke video about him having a foot fetish, because it shared a similar title to a serious video I had made. He mentions in the video that the two people mentioned in About Repzilla Stalker were the person I interviewed and myself. Not that it fully matters, but for context, I actually have a screenshot that she sent me from the same day that the conversation started, showing the messages on that day from his Facebook fan page, which he doesn't show. He also shows a message where he asked to be left alone. There's no proof it was the same person as their picture is not shown. I also have a definitive screenshot of her reaching out to him on Facebook around that time. What's strange is how he conveniently blurred out all but one username, and that certain account that has Raven in their bio hasn't been tweeted on since 2014. Seriously. He does not show that these accounts reached out to him. He also shows old Facebook accounts which he doesn't show have messaged him, just that they exist and were likely her sometime in the past 7 or so years. The one I found has not been active since 2014. In the Google Drive he shows their entire conversation, which is a bit of a strange read to be honest. Some of it seems strangely intimate and I could honestly, reading the messages, see why she felt led on, personally. Then he mentions the interview and says he didn't dox her because there was a public YouTube comment. And it was. But if it wasn't doxing, then why have you blurred it in your video and why is the video now private? Anyway, doxing is by definition search for and publish private or identifying information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. If you ask me, saying someone stalked you and then showing their name and face, while also saying that you blocked her because you knew the Ret Squad would tear her a new one while showing her comment, I mean, need I say more? It's identifying information and I would also say it's with malicious intent from what I've seen. She is not a public figure or anything. If I said that a fan was stalking me and then posted their name and photo online, I think I would get accused of doxing, and rightly so. In regards to the statement that he made, I made a video about it when it came out, which will be linked in the description, but there is more added in this video, so I'll talk about that stuff. In regards to the photo of him outside the house thing, he made it sound like she was sitting outside his house and taking photos of him, which she wasn't. During the interview, I was under the impression that he had provided her with some information that alluded to where he lived, and she had found it on Google Maps from there. I asked her about it a while ago, and she said that he did it while video chatting. He uses a clip to show that she said she took screenshots of his house and that she worked out where he lived because he live streamed it and the gym. What's interesting is that in the messages he provided, there is indication of them video chatting, which I assume is what she meant by live streaming while he was at the gym or a Walmart. I do not condone talking down about anyone's living arrangements. Housing and such is just part of life. There is nothing to say that he was at home when they video chatted, although his streams were generally in his house. He even shows a clip where she says that he went to the gym and Walmart where Cinnamon was working. It just sounds like maybe Cinnamon was the one living in Tennessee and he was visiting her one day, and that's where that came from. Based on what I know, that seems the most plausible, honestly. But I could be wrong, of course, and there's no proof either way to my knowledge, but it's just a thought. He also tweeted around that time that he regularly visited Tennessee. He also said that he never asked her to fly out, whereas in the messages he literally says you can visit if you decide you want to. It's not technically the same thing, but it says what it says. In regards to the breaking up comment, it was a comment in regards to the breaking up of the friendship, and yes, based on messages, I can see there was Rep who ended things. Everything presented in the video by Rep talks about the online stalking, but it sounded like in the original video that she was at his house taking photos. I understand it can be difficult to show police reports without doxing yourself, but she thought you lived in Tennessee and you, living in Georgia, were worried about that. I don't think it's overly fair of me to question the police reports because it's not my place, but she thought he lived in Tennessee from what I got in the interview. If he was so worried based on that she allegedly sent screenshots of his home to him that he filed a police report, it doesn't make sense. So she sent screenshots of the wrong house and then the police reports were just, made for something to do? I don't get it and it's never explained. Speaking of the living thing, it's shown in the drive that I apparently knew he lived in Georgia at the time. I've already spoken about it and the messages to the person on Discord, Pumpkin, and the drive were deliberately vague on my end because of that. To clarify, I know now that he lived in Georgia in 2018, but at the time of the interview I was under the impression he lived in Tennessee in 2018, due to his Twitter saying so. Maybe that was a stupid thing to go off, but from when I started watching his videos at the time, he only had one background and I was under the impression that was in Tennessee. He lived in Georgia in 2018, but I wasn't aware of that at the time of the interview. I thought when his background changed in 2019 that was when he had moved to Georgia. Before we go on, I just want to say something. I interviewed May because I know that I was lied about at the time and thought maybe the other person mentioned was too. I wanted to give her a voice because I felt maybe we were in similar boats. Taking down the interview is not an attempt to erase it from existence. I'll speak about it when it's mentioned and talk about it when it's mentioned. I'm not trying to hide from anything here. I did the best with what I had, but now I know that I didn't have everything, fortunately. There is no proof shown that any of these accounts that he found and mentioned actually messaged him afterwards. I have proof that she messaged him from her own account on his Facebook fan page after the fact, but nothing else outside of that I've seen. Let's talk about the doxing stuff for a second. He accused me of doxing him and stuck with it for years because I showed a little picture bubble when showing his messages in a video. What he did was not the same. I have mentioned previously that he did credit me for some hours using my real name that I believe I had proven with messages before, but in the instance I'm talking about, he showed our messages in a Google Drive, which isn't the issue. I had previously shared our messages as well, the difference being that his contained my Facebook name and my profile picture, which is pretty identifiable if you ask me, regardless of how many people have the name, which ironically, he did again in the Google Drive for his opening up video. The difference being that I showed a bubble, and as I said in my messages to him, it was an image, no names. He showed my Facebook name and also my Facebook profile picture. Also, if it matters, I'm not going to show his Facebook obviously, but his Facebook name at the moment and at the time of me putting out the Speaking of Repzilla video were not his real name. In regards to Discord, I used to basically try and be anonymous in servers before I had my own, because I was wary of the potential hate that I would get for just being there. Whereas my trust fund is not an alt. I deleted the Discord I had in 2018 and have since made a completely new one. I was letting Rep know that people had his IP address because I thought he'd want to know. It also may be worth noting that at this point I was less than a year into doing YouTube, if that's important. He seemed to think it was for him. He also showed in a message in 2018 that he was in the Discord that he claimed was so bad. Also, the pictures of his family thing has been disproven in case you were wondering. He said that someone told him so in a tweet. I've never seen proof that any photos were even posted. In regards to the view total thing at the end of speaking of Repzilla, it wasn't to show what was taken from me, it was shown to show the amount of potential people that could have visited my channel if I was referenced like I felt like I should have been at the time. I've also since apologised privately about this video. It is online still for transparency. How I feel about it now is mixed. The Reddit post is contentious and he says that he didn't use content that was mine in the video and then says he spoke about it for 40 seconds, so did you or didn't you? As I said, it's contentious and I was worried at the time about that kind of stuff. I saw it as common courtesy. These days, and in hindsight, it was silly. Just to clarify, I was the one who made the Reddit post and the video that was posted was also mine. That's where I come into it. Also didn't take words from his title, that's coincidence. Last year and this year I have been working on making titles more optimal and thumbnails better, and the lawsuit was one of the main series on my channel. I have done a lot of research into search engine optimization and taking the hints of extensions like TubeBuddy and vidIQ. Now, if you have a 3-word title like I had in 2018, it would have less chance of doing well because there's less keywords and such. I changed a lot of video titles and thumbnails on both my 2 channels through doing this. The more I learn about YouTube, the more I try and incorporate things into what I make, and if I find something like titles with 5 keywords do better, I'll go and change a bunch of titles and try and work on them standing out more. As Marsii has like 600 videos, I couldn't do this for all of them. I then asked him to put in the Reddit post reference. That's what I was referring to when I said I was thrown off by no reference in the video yesterday, even though he says that there was nothing of mine that he showed in the video the day before. Also, the knowing what he was going to make argument is stupid. We shared ideas with each other. I kind of hate the 15 minutes thing. I was using a MacBook from 2009 and iMovie, which isn't an accurate representation of my work now. Things change. I used to worry about quantity over quality. Marsii sued Poppy and Titanic Sinclair. The title is literal. In the case of Hi, I'm Mary Mary, it's just silly. We'd spoken about it in DMs prior to both of us covering it. I actually tweeted the day before my video that I was starting the series the next day, so there's that. I went to check the dates to see if my tweet was the same day as his first video or not, but he's removed the first 2 episodes, interestingly enough. I also actually finished that series and made 21 episodes about it in total. I also would have thought that the winky face about the copying a private video would imply it's sarcasm. Of course he wasn't copying me there, that's silly. Wait, I copied his doing it once a week thing? Oh boy. Our videos were different. I literally did an analysis series on the whole thing. I was hesitant to move away from Poppy and Marsii content at the time, and I did it once a week on the same day, on a Friday, because I didn't want to alienate the audience too much. Also, apparently I tried to control what he made. Huh? I mean, I like to try and bring a different angle to things, and because I was making mine ahead of time, I didn't want that to go to waste. As it turned out, he stopped making the series and I kept going anyway. I put out my videos 2 days after Insider Mind made a video, that's why I mentioned it to him. Insider Mind made a video about it, and it seemed interesting, and I thought, hey, I could expand upon that in greater detail, and Rep was also exploring internet mysteries and such around that time, so it seemed like a perfect fit. If they watch Insider Mind's video, then there may be a trickle effect to myself and Rep's videos about Hi, I'm Mary Mary. Just quickly, I made many videos regarding the Wayback Machine. I even used it to archive my own channel when I was bored. I spent maybe 100+ hours researching Poppy and Marsii on the Wayback Machine in my spare time around then. It seems like with what he's presented, it's coincidence, and that's fine. I hadn't previously seen that. The pause thing is interesting to mention because it's after he put me in his Speaking of My Stalker video, which basically invalidates that video. Because if you're so worried, why would you work with someone again? I continued to support him and reach out after my Speaking of Repzilla video. I also wasn't baiting him into a reference, I was trying to make his work easier. Simple as that. After saying he'd rather use those statements, guess what I did? I sent them to him. Sorry to interrupt, I was just editing the video and I noticed something. I was going to talk about the Poppy Island Records thing and the shoutout thing next, but I want to play this clip to you.
217, he sent me a topic to cover, and of course he wanted a shout out.
Did you catch it? Messages are over 20 days apart. They're not from the same conversation. I'll show you the conversation. That Poppy thing that I just mentioned and that Bourne's thing, a year apart by the way, apparently I admitted to copying him. I saw what he did and figured out how to do it in videos. I even responded and said I wasn't copying him, I'm just getting better at editing videos. Also, he'd gotten so used to me mentioning about referencing or copying. Bit of a stretch. It happened in the Facebook conversations like 3 or 4 videos in a year. Although the words are mentioned more times than that in our conversation because it comes up in YouTube general conversation. Also, that Edwin and Mina video is an interesting example. I saw he did it and thought I would bring attention to it to my audience, as Edwin was a part of the Poppy and Marsii community at that time, and I thought that they might want to know. Let's talk about tweets and thumbnails for a second. This goes back to me researching how things work. I used to auto-post my videos to Twitter when YouTube had that feature. It was great, but unfortunately, I found that direct links weren't doing so well. Photos do, so put a thumbnail and a brief description along with the URL at the end and it's set up to go. It's that simple. Sorry to interrupt again, I was going to talk here more about the whole description and then YouTube link and the thumbnail thing. When I looked into it, turns out I had actually started doing it before him. Now, he had started, according to his Twitter from what I could find, on the 5th of May 2020 and I started in late 2019. Although it is fair to say that he was posting videos with his descriptions and links onto Twitter to kind of get it out there. Although that didn't start until 2020 either. So I don't know what he's talking about. The thumbnail thing is just ridiculous. I think he's implying I stole the idea of a yellow arrow from him. I've used it in 6 thumbnails ever as of right now. Sorry, Mr. I own the yellow arrow to point at things, and also Mr. I own the format of yellow text on videos too. I change my thumbnail style around a lot because I get bored of it. Same as my logo. Like, look at my thumbnails this year alone. The photo for the thumbnail thing has been spoken about a lot. Sorry if I'm repeating myself here. As he says I asked for photos for a thumbnail and sent me some. I sent him one back using one asking if it looked okay and he said yes, which I didn't end up using for that specific video. The issue is that the photo I used was and still is, as of writing this, publicly on his Instagram prior to me using it, which is why I don't see it as an issue. Also, the comment asking about using messages and him saying that he thought it was for the collab video doesn't add up, as I published the collab video prior to asking about the messages thing, like 14 hours prior. Although I don't think it's fair to assume he had notifications on or anything, but the fact is that my video about the collab was out over half a day prior to me asking about the messages. Also, just in case it isn't clear, I didn't leak photos of his family. Also, lying about striking my videos is a strange thing to do. He admits that it would be a full strike. He said in Twitter DMs he didn't follow through the copyright claim on the video. He also said he struck down a lesser video, which he claims he lied about and did not take down a lot can happen in a day, like he claimed. My channel was removed for appealing a copyright strike by Poppy on a compilation. In fact, I lost it twice for the same thing, just different videos. I had never said he had anything to do with my videos going down except for a lot can happen in a day, which he said he did. I went with what I knew at the time. I guess he's saying he didn't attempt to take down the video. He even says in the video that he tried to take down Speaking of Repzilla, but didn't go through with it when they asked for more information, so I'm not sure how that's a lie. The false mass flag thing was in regards to a lot can happen in a day. I was under the impression that a mass flag took place to get that video removed for community guidelines that it didn't violate, and still doesn't. Although I concede it may have just been a few reports. I honestly don't fully understand how it works, but with the information I was told by Repzilla, he took it down regardless. Poppy was, in my opinion, falsely taking down my videos. One was a literal laughing compilation, and the other one was 2 hours of her old covers, which could be debated about, although at the time I thought it was okay as it was for archive purposes. Also, Marsii did claim stuff under Content ID, which had nothing to do with me losing my channel. It has no effect on my channel as it stands. She simply says, hey, it's my music, I want the revenue, and that's how it goes. His reporting history, interestingly enough, does include Speaking of Repzilla and the other side of Repzilla, which were not removed. There is a report after Speaking of Repzilla. I don't know if a video that was removed for community guidelines will appear in the list or not, so I can't say for sure. Repzilla says he got a message in March of 2019 about a post on Locale. I've never posted on Locale. Let me just make it clear and run through this quickly. This was not me. But how could they have posted the messages between you two if it wasn't you, I hear you ask? Well, simply, they took them from a video. The other side of Repzilla, where I showed the messages that were posted, it's that simple. They took the screenshot from my video and posted it on Locale to prove their point. My video came out a month prior to the post. Also, KL is not me. I've spoken about them previously in a video. They're not an old account of mine. The tweet that I made about the doxing was in regards to something Repzilla likely doesn't know about. Someone was posting his doxing comments, and they commented on my video. I deleted the comment and blocked them from my channel. Here's a conversation I had at the time about it with another creator. Also, that video about the racist tweets where I apparently doxed his city, he posted 8 days prior screenshots of the name of the Facebook page. The SoundCloud literally has the same name, Hello Today. You shared the page name and you were associated with it, and there's even a tweet that's still online of you sharing a song from that exact SoundCloud account. The open letter video is interesting because he talks about how his full name isn't public, yet he posted the screenshot on Twitter, and here's proof. Although this shows he posted it uncensored, unfortunately the earliest I can find is 10 days after my video, and I can't prove if he tweeted out prior to my video, although there's a chance it's in the tweets that he has deleted. I was under the impression, as I always have been, that the photo came from his Twitter at the time, which I implied in my tweet where I say that the video shows text on an image that he posted publicly. As soon as I got the privacy complaint this year, I did something about it. I was under the impression his full name was Shane Andrews at the time of the locale video, and I did not realize that the video had sensitive information, as Shane Andrews was public. When I was made aware that his name was not Shane Andrews like he had stated, my first thought was to delete the comments containing that. I didn't realize my video actually contained that name until I was made aware of it via a privacy complaint, even though it was 2.5 years later. Although he has posted the image himself, it does not mean it's okay, although it was an honest mistake on my end. In regards to the other incident, it would help if you saw the image I was talking about. It was a screenshot of his conversation with Mabe, where he told her to add him. It featured an abbreviation of his channel name and a last name he has publicly stated. Here's the screenshot blurred. His LinkedIn is also under the name, which is public. Also, just to clarify the conversation, this name and the one in the locale video aren't the same thing. I said his full name is public, and by that I mean the name that he shares the last name with the LinkedIn. This was 6 months prior to me even knowing that his real name was even associated with the locale thing.
This is a post April 3rd of 2013. Interested in our admins? These are the people behind the page. Check out Repzilla, CK, which is Chazzy Rush, Zoe. Mexecutioner is the one that's most famous.
Yes, Repzilla, Google Maps is public. What's your point? As she says, it's public to everyone you share it with. This clip is not anyone condoning anything. It's very much doxing if someone were to say, hey, private person X lives here. Here's their address on Google Maps, but that's not what was said in the clip. You asked me about the details of losing my channel in DMs. It would make sense that I would let you know my channel was back online, especially given you so proudly used my channel being down to try and insinuate I was a bad person. Yes, he did attempt to sort things out prior to Priming's video, but I asked him to wait until after the video and he blocked me soon after. Apparently they were posting personal DMs on locale. Well, it would be a shame if once again those were taken from a video where I shared our messages a month prior. It's almost like what I shared in the video was screenshot from my video and posted on locale without my knowledge. Wow. Yes, I made the Google Drive under a different name/email. Wow. I hope you didn't make one that was under a different name than Repzilla. Whoops, looks like you did. All I provided to that Google Drive was my own information, the majority of the post information and bits and pieces elsewhere. I am not the only person to ever make a video about you or post about you. The drive is a collection of information. It is not a vendetta, it is to back up claims in a video. You will claim there was no evidence otherwise. I mentioned being in Priming's video for context. The truth about me randomly appearing in the Twitter thing is, honestly, after the video and some of the tweets slandering me, it's probably technically libel, but still. I got paranoid that my name was going to get dragged further, so every so often I check and try to keep on top of it. That's the truth. I have a habit of trying to defend myself, and if my name is being mentioned, I will usually step in to see and say something to offer context or even defend myself if need be. That's all there is to it. It's not like he's never responded to me since having me blocked either, or posted screenshots of my tweets despite having me blocked. Also, that Tommy C tweet is ridiculous. I saw it because I follow Tommy. Also, it's not unlikely for me to see people tweet or retweet things about rap. The Edwin thing I'm pretty sure I spoke about before. He said in the video that he said to me that we would grow our channels together, and then Edwin started covering the thing that Rep and I had been covering for a while. Yes, I was gatekeeping and a bit annoyed about it at the time. I was definitely less knowledgeable about YouTube. I can see why I felt like I did at the time. It was meant to be my big break. I'd worked it up too much in my head and I got protective over it. Let's talk about Daily. I said she's not referencing the videos that she was including in the compilation. And? So what? It's an observation. I didn't say Edwin was copying me. I said he was copying you and I. I felt like we were both cheered to have a big break at the time. It was silly in hindsight. The moral comment is because I felt like Rep and I had done all the hard work to get where we were and others just swooped in. Once again, silly and a bad mentality in hindsight. The document that was made by Relevant News at the time, I'm not going to go through it. There's places where I've addressed it previously, and in fact she reached out in comments earlier this year, and I feel we're both moved past it and admitted our wrongdoings, and I wish her the best. In regards to Daily, the thing I wanted credit for was an edit that I had made. It was ripped straight from my channel. It was not my video originally, but the video as it stood was mine. I had transformed it. I still stick by that. The unoriginal comment was that she had gotten a compilation to I think 200k views at the time. I've explained it before and apologized before, which is conveniently nowhere to be seen in Repzilla's video. That I made that comment and a few others when my friend was in hospital and someone I was talking to was also in hospital. I was highly stressed and should not have been online at the time. Also, not that I need to explain this, me claiming copyright was me taking the revenue, as Daily says I said. So, content ID. Look at me thinking I could do that at the time. Oh, how silly. Hindsight really is a wonderful thing. I was worried and stubborn about something that I thought was being done against me at the time, and I think that's clear. Daly's point about editing is an interesting one. Like, a video taking him 8 to 12 hours to edit isn't like a constant thing. Me taking 15 minutes to edit mine also isn't. There's a lot of variables in there. Rep also goes on to say they should have cut contact during the Facebook messages despite collaborating with me later that year. And even trying to resolve things right before Premink's video doesn't make sense to me. So I called Daily beautiful and said her having a boyfriend doesn't change how she looks. I know it sounds stupid, but the premise of that comment was that you don't become ugly if you have a partner. Honestly, even now, it was stupid. I should have kept it to myself. I can see how it made things awkward. I treated my Instagram account as a real account. I didn't have a private account. I understand that I made things awkward and I could have avoided it. Repzilla fails to mention that I met someone I had a romantic relationship with through my YouTube account, because of him in fact. I try to treat people as people. That's how I work. Also, I was not rejected by Daily. I literally said I knew she had a boyfriend. I have no ill feelings towards Daily. Also, this screenshot showing that I say they show no evidence. You do realize that it literally says Rep above it, and it was a section about you. There's 3 sections in that document. Daily, Rep, and IN. Relevant News. It's even more confusing because he says I bragged about being friends with him, implying he knew that that section was about him. Also, I guess I should apologize for not opening up to you about people I knew being in hospital. How unfortunate. I guess you have to know everything, otherwise it doesn't exist. Hopefully that's everything. Thanks for watching.